Brought to you by Hula Frog. Local things for kids to do. HulaFrog.com.
Hello, and thanks for watching Illusionist Michael Howell Live. I'd like to thank our sponsor, Hula Frog. I'd also like to thank our guest sponsor, Macaroni Kid. Another special thanks to Williams Magic Shop, Mildred and Dildred, and Arizona Families. If you guys would like to find out what supplies you're going to need for each episode, you can go to illusionistmichaelhowell.com, click the Illusionist Michael Howell Live link, and it'll be at the top of the page. Now, guys, I'm going to perform a magic trick for you. Okay, guys, I'm so excited. We have a lot of upcoming events. One of the events is going to be October 16th. It's going to be a spooktacular, spectacular with magic, aerialists, siltwalkers, hopefully some pyrotechnics if we can make it happen. So more information will be on our website. And then we're also doing social distancing magic shows. So if you want more information, also check out our website. I am so excited, guys. We have a very special guest today. Oh, he is amazing. I'm such a big fan. He's my mentor. He's the one who inspired me to get into magic. Please welcome Master Illusionist Lance Burton.
Hi, I'm Lance Burton. I'm standing in the middle of the Nevada desert, just outside Las Vegas, the magic capital of the world. On a clear day, you can see for 100 miles in every direction. And when you're in a magical place like this, it's a good idea to keep your eyes open at all times. You never know what's going to happen. Come on, let's get started.
All right, guys, I'm so excited. We have Master Illusionist Lance Burton with us. Thanks so much, Lance, for coming on the show, man.
Hey, Michael, so glad to be here with you. Thank you.
So this is a question that I get all the time, and it's a question a lot of interviewers ask. Who inspired you to get into magic?
Well, now we're going back many, many years. Back when I was a kid, I was 5 years old. I was at a Christmas party one year, and there was a fella doing a magic show, and he asked for a volunteer from the audience, and I was the kid that got to go up on the stage. And he did a trick where he reached behind my ear and he pulled out silver dollars, and then behind my elbow. So this is a classic of magic called the Miser's Dream. But I didn't know it at the time, you know, and that really opened my eyes to this thing called magic. Now, at first, I didn't really understand what I was seeing. I thought the guy had real magic powers. And for the next month, every day, I'd wake up and I'd look in the mirror and I'd brush my teeth, and then I'd check to see if there was any more money, you know, every place that he'd found a silver dollar. And then finally somebody noticed and took pity on me and said, Lance, the guy doesn't really have magic powers. This is a skill that he's learned, that he studied. And then I went, oh, okay, maybe this is something I could learn. But that's what started me out. And the magician's name was Harry Collins. And he was a terrific magician who was from my home state of Kentucky. Yeah. And he was a terrific magician and a very good role model. And he became my mentor later on.
That is so cool. It's funny how at one point in all of our lives as magicians, we've gone to that show, and because we were that volunteer, that kind of pushed us along to get into magic. What is your favorite trick to perform?
Well, since I just told you the story of how I got into magic, now I do that trick in my show, where I get a kid up and I pull the silver dollars out from behind his ears, and I kind of teach the kid how to do the trick. You know, not really, but he's successful in the end. He actually was able to catch a silver dollar out of the air and take it home with him. And so I think that's my favorite trick to perform, to be honest with you, because that kind of brings my life full circle. Wow. That's how it started, and now I'm passing it along to the next generation.
That is awesome. I've actually seen your show and I've seen you do that, so to know the backstory of that trick is really cool. I know.
And now at this point in life, you know, I retired from the stage in 2010. I didn't do any shows for about 7 years, but I started doing a few shows a few years ago, and I travel around and I do a show called Lance Burton and Friends. And so now when I do that trick, I get the kid up, I do the trick, and then after he goes back to his seat, I tell that story about the first time I saw the trick. And the whole thing about passing it on, and it really has become the main part of my show now. That's my favorite part of the show, is telling that story to the audience.
Wow, that's awesome. I know when I did see you, sidetracking, one of my favorite things about your performance is that you're so everybody can relate to you. You're so down home and real easygoing. And when you're at your show, you feel like you're just sitting in you're a big family sitting in a living room together.
That's basically how you have to do it when you're a hillbilly from Kentucky.
There you go, man. So I get super nervous when I go on stage, and I've done a lot of shows. You've done a lot of shows. Do you get nervous? And what is the last thought you have before entering that stage?
You know, when you first start out, you get nervous, but after you do a couple of hundred shows, that starts to go away. And after you've done 15 or 16,000 shows, like me, you don't think about it anymore. It just feels perfectly natural. But that is a concern when you first start out learning magic, especially when you're a kid, like I was learning magic. Yeah, first time you get up in front of people, you feel a little nervous. You feel the butterflies, but that eventually goes away the more shows you do.
More shows you do, and if you do get nervous, my advice to youth is just use the nerves to help you get through the performance and create a positive.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, it's not just perform. Everybody, when they start a new job, you're nervous on your first day at work. You know, it's a new building, it's new coworkers, and the second day you're probably a little nervous. But after a month, you're good with it. Same. School, first day of school, you might be a little nervous. New teacher, new friends sitting next to you, but you know, after a few weeks, it all seems normal.
Get used to it, and you get that confidence. So, I know you do stunts, and because of you, I performed this exact stunt. What made you perform Buried Alive? What inspired you to do that?
I did back in the 1990s. I was never really big on doing escapes and those sort of dangerous stunts in the live show, but I did a lot of television shows back then. and there was a lot of shows on network TV. So I kind of became a pretty well-known escape artist back then because I was the guy doing it on television for a short period of time. Now, the buried alive you're referring to, that was a trick that Harry Houdini, the famous magician, worked on and was planning on putting in his show in the 1927 season. But of course, he died in 1926 and he never got to do it. But he had a poster made of it. And so it became sort of this legendary trick where the magician is shackled and locked in a box and then buried under tons of earth. So anyway, it was a television show, and it was a real quick conversation. The producer called me up and said, "Lance, we're doing this show, and do you want to do the Houdini Buried Alive?" And I went, "Yeah, I'll do that." That's how it came about.
Like, sure, why not?
Sure, why not? We'll figure out a way to do it.
And then because of that, I did it because you inspired me to do it. And my family called me crazy because they're like, "You're not Lance Burton. You don't have his crew and his team." But luckily, I have the best family that grew up in showbiz, and they can produce just about anything. So.
Yeah. There is a little bit of danger to that trick, and the danger is real. So I don't recommend anybody do it. I had a whole crew and people standing by. We had guys with shovels, and we had a bulldozer there. If something were to go wrong, they could get me out. But
it is super dangerous.
It's kind of intense.
It's very intense. I actually, when I was doing it, the tractor couldn't see because I did it out at my ranch, and there was so much dust that the tractor driver couldn't see, and the wheel went over the hole, almost fell in the hole. So very close call, made it very exciting, but don't try it at home, guys.
Stick with card tricks.
Yeah, stick with card tricks. I did it just because we spent many years planning it and watching, your videos because we wanted to do it just as good as you. So what is the hardest trick you've ever performed?
That's a good question. Sometimes some tricks, I have had tricks in my show that literally was a 20-year process from the moment I had an idea and I wrote it down in my notebook, and then it sat there for years, and I would think about it every now and then eventually you go back to it and you go, "Oh, that's a good idea," and you work on it some more, and then you build it. So some have taken 15, 20 years from the germ of the idea to getting onto the stage. And some are quick. Some maybe it's only a couple of days or a week of working on it. You can put it in the show.
Right.
But in the end, the audience is always the judge. It doesn't matter how long you've worked on something. If the audience doesn't like it, you got to take it out. Put something in that they like.
It's funny because as a magician, like, it will impress a magician, and like the magicians go crazy for it. "Oh, that's the coolest thing." But then you perform that in your show next to the simplest trick, and the audience loves that simple trick even more than the one you've spent 20 years practicing.
Yeah. It's fun. So anyway, you always got to listen to the audience because they'll tell you what you should keep in your show and what you should take out.
Definitely. So you are also a filmmaker. I was wondering how that's going, and if there are any more films expected to come out in the future.
I've got several credits. The one that I finished a few years ago that I wrote and directed. Here's a DVD. It's called Billy Toppet, Master Magician, and I play the title role there. And it is a comedy. It's a family film, good for the whole family. It's available at Amazon. You can get a DVD or a digital download. But I worked on that for quite a while. I tell you how it came about. When I was a kid, there was a television show on called The Magician, starring Bill Bixby. And he played the part of a magician who solved mysteries. And I always loved that show when I was a kid. Then that was in the 70s. Then in the 80s, I did a guest starring role on the television series Knight Rider. And the guy that was working with me on that episode was Mark Wilson. He provided all of the magic illusions for that episode of Knight Rider. And Mark Wilson also was involved in The Magicians with Bill Bixby. And Mark encouraged me. He said, you're doing a good job, Lance, and you should do more of this. And that just got me thinking. And then, 10, 15 years later, this popped out of my brain.
Wow, that's so cool. I know that filmmaking and magic just correlate so well together. I know that another reason I got into magic is my brother was a filmmaker, and together we started watching you in a show called Movie Magic. And then he started making films, doing that movie magic, and I started doing actual magic.
What was I in? It was a TV show, Movie Magic.
Oh, it was we watched a show called Movie Magic, and it was about like creating films and stuff and using the art of magic and special effects.
Yeah. Some of the earliest filmmakers were magicians.
Yeah.
Georges Méliès over in France was one of the earliest pioneers in filmmaking. He was a professional magician.
Yeah.
And they made a movie about him a few years ago called Hugo, which was very, very, very good film.
Very fascinating. I enjoyed that film. So we're in COVID. This whole thing is so strange. How has it affected like your progress with your future, your business?
Well, yeah, everything stopped. My last show was in February. We flew to Blackpool, England, and we did 2 shows at the Blackpool Opera House, which was this beautiful venue. Blackpool Opera House was built in the 1860s, wow. And seats like 2,500, 3,000 people. And we just had a fantastic time. And then we got back home, and then of course the quarantine hit. And so I had about 15 or 20 shows booked, for 2020. And they've all been postponed till next year. So all the shows in Las Vegas have closed down. So there's no live entertainment anywhere. Yeah. So all of the entertainers, we're all sitting around waiting for this to end. So
waiting for something to happen. It affected me because like magic and performing was my life and my business. So
yeah. So we've all learned how to do Zoom now.
Yeah. See, now we're doing this. This is cool. Yeah. So you're a big animal lover. As you know, I have an animal rescue, Rose Ranch Animal Rescue. What are some of the rescues that you support and you fundraise for?
Yeah, we have some very good organizations here in Las Vegas. The Nevada SPCA, I've been a supporter of them for 10, 15, 20 years. They are fantastic. It's a no-kill animal shelter. And in fact, I was over there last week dropping off a bunch of blankets to donate. There's also another group in town called Heaven Can Wait. Animal Society, and they are really into the trap, neuter, and release program for feral cats.
Okay.
And I've done work with them, and they're fantastic. But yeah, anybody that helps animals, I'm in support of.
Thanks. Yeah, animals right now, and especially. I have gotten a part-time job, which I never thought I would do as being a full-time performer. I work at a pet store, and the amount of animals that go out is insane. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I know they're coming to my rescue like next year because like and the only reason I'm at the pet store is to make sure they find good, proper homes. Like,
yeah,
what I can do.
Yeah. Well, many states have passed laws saying that you can't buy pets in pet stores anymore.
Wow.
Because of the problem. I mean, we have so many adoptable animals waiting for homes.
Yeah.
In shelters and animal rescue organizations.
Yeah.
We got to try and find them homes. So
I get it.
It's a complicated problem.
It is, and I have so many at my rescue. We still have like water turtles and goats and different things that need homes, and because we do farm animals and exotic pets, it's very hard to find them homes. So what's the best advice you want to give to a young upstart magician, somebody that wants to be a magician?
If a young person is interested in magic, the first thing I would tell them is go to your library and ask the librarian for books on magic, because that's how I learned when I was a kid. I discovered that there were such things as magic books, and you can read about the trick, and then you can learn the secret behind the trick and how to perform it, and then you try it out on your friends and on your family. And if you're really interested in pursuing magic, I recommend you join the International Brotherhood of Magicians. I've been a member for close to 50 years. I think 46 years I've been a member.
Wow.
Now back when I joined, you had to be 14 years old to join. Now they've lowered the age to 8 years old.
What?
So
Wow.
I would have joined at 8 if I had been allowed. But the great thing about the IBM, we have a convention, a live convention every year where the magicians all get together and watch magic and talk magic and see lectures. And those are great to go to. But if you're a member, every month you get the Linking Ring magazine. And so you can keep up with what's going on in magic, and inside the magazine, you can learn new tricks, and you can read about, here, there's a picture of me in that one.
There you go. That's awesome, man. Yeah.
So I particularly love learning about the history of magic. In fact, in this Linking Ring magazine, which is from last year, here's a photo of a very famous magician, Harry Blackstone Sr. His son was also a very famous magician, Harry Blackstone Jr. And the girl here that he's posed with, that's his assistant. And that role she was called the Elusive Moth because she has the moth costume. Well, her name is Adele, and she's a friend of mine. And Adele lives back in Pennsylvania, and she is like in her 80s or 90s now.
Wow.
And is still active in magic.
That is awesome.
So I always enjoy that connection with the past. In fact, actually meeting people who were there in the day.
I agree. That's amazing. History of magic is so interesting, and it inspires me throughout my performing career. Blackstone, we're having Gay Blackstone on this show. Not next episode, but the episode after that. So I'm excited to talk to her about the history of.
Yeah. Now Harry Blackstone Sr. That was before my time, but Harry Jr. and Gay Blackstone, I saw them many times perform their show. I saw them in my hometown of Louisville. I saw them in Cincinnati. I saw them in St. Louis. Harry Jr. was a good friend and was a terrific. In fact, you see this Merlin costume?
I do.
Over my shoulder? That is from Harry Blackstone Jr.'s show.
Whoa.
When I was a teenager, I saw his show, and he did an illusion, and it was the original illusion was from his father's show. It was called The Old Man and the Whiskers. It was a great illusion, and he really fooled me with it. He amazed me with it, and then later on, I came up with something similar. It worked completely different, but that's my costume there, the sword fighting guy, and but it was inspired by, and that's the actual costume that Harry Jr. Wore in his show. And they had an auction several years ago, and I bought it because it really meant something to me and it really affected my life. So I keep those here in my living room.
That is so cool. I recognize that. I was like, oh, I've seen that in your show. That's so cool. Just as you've been a big inspiration on me, and one of the main reasons I'm in the magic is because of you. So thank you so much for.
Oh, my pleasure. How kind of you to say that.
And I hope that this can help youth, that are watching, have you that inspire them as well. And actually, I would love if you could perform a magic trick.
Yeah, you want to see some magic? Now, I'm still relatively new with this Zoom thing. Hold a second. I've got here some music.
Okay.
If it plays, it plays, and if it doesn't, then there's no harm, no foul. I'm going to set this here next to the computer screen, and I'll hit the button, and we'll see if the music plays. Well, I can hear it anyway. I don't know if you guys can hear it. Ooh, look, it's Elvis, ladies and gentlemen. Not the real Elvis. That's just the little bird's name. Elvis has a trick he'd like to show you. He calls this going south. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, folks. Elvis says he refuses to do the trick unless the cage is covered so you can't see him. He's not very smart. No, Elvis, they can't see you. Oh, I'm sorry. Elvis says he wants to see his fans one more time. Say goodnight, Elvis.
Wow. Hey, that was awesome, man. Thank you so much.
Elvis has left the building, everyone.
Bye, Elvis. I love that one. That is so awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been an absolute honor. And if people want to find out more information, I know you have a website.
Yes. So thank you, Michael, for inviting me on the show. It's nice talking to you. And if anybody wants more information, and eventually when the quarantine is lifted, I'll be back out there doing some shows, traveling around the country. But my website's lanceburton.com. Very easy to find. And I'm on Facebook and I'm on Twitter, and I joined Instagram not too long ago. So
oh my gosh, you're on Instagram.
I'm trying to stay with the times.
Well, if Lance is on Instagram, this means that I have to do Instagram. My fiance's like, you need to do Instagram.
Yes. When you hang out with younger people, they tell you, join Instagram.
They do. Well, thank you so much, man. And you have a great rest of your afternoon.
Thank you. Nice to talk to you. God bless you.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much, Lance, for coming on the show. I'm so happy you did a trick. We've had other magicians on the show, and they actually haven't performed for us, but you did, and you're just incredible. So thanks so much for coming on. I'd like to let you guys know I have an animal rescue called Rose Ranch Animal Rescue, and in this time, we are hurting because I use magic to support the animal rescue, and I donate 15% of everything I make from each show. But I haven't been performing because of the pandemic. So if you guys would like to find out more information, you can go to the Illusionist Michael Howell page, and there's also a link for Rose Ranch Animal Rescue. Hey guys, it's that time where I tell the worst jokes you've ever heard. You guys ready? Jerica, you want to come up here? All right. So Jerica, what did the horse say to the camel?
What did the
I'm just kidding. All right, guys, that was not the joke. All right, so this kid was going to school, all right? And his teacher asked him, well, what's your dad do for a living? And the kid replied, well, my dad's a magician. And the teacher replied, well, what's your dad's favorite trick? He said, well, sawing people in half. And she goes, oh, that's cool. She goes, well, do you have any siblings? And he goes, yeah, one half brother and one half sister. That's terrible. Oh, guys, for a time, Harry Houdini used a lot of trap doors, but he was just going through a stage. That's terrible. Hey, an invisible man marries an invisible woman. The kids were nothing to look at either. That's terrible because you couldn't see him. Yeah. Okay. When was a magician not a magician?
When is a magician not a magician?
When he turns into a driveway. That's terrible, guys. Well, those are all the cheesy and bad jokes we have for you on this episode. Next week's guest, guys, is Gay Blackstone. Another amazing person in magic. She is related to Blackstone Jr. and Sr., and she has a lot of TV shows on CW, including Masters of Illusions. So if you guys want to look her up, look up Gay Blackstone. She is incredible, and she's done so much for the magic community. So thanks so much, guys, for watching, and we'll see you next Saturday.